Brynhilde was a Valkyrie. She rode at the side of Odin during battle. She was a very important Valkyrie. Her responsibility was to execute Odin's will. Odin would determine who would live and who would die during battle, and it was her responsibility to make sure that that is exactly what happened. And she did exactly as he wanted, all except for once. She saw this one young man, and her heart fluttered, and she just loved how handsome he was. And Odin said that he must die, and she said, "Oh no, I don't think so." And so as the spear was moving, flying through the air towards his chest, she turned it around, and it instead landed in the chest of his opponent. Well, Odin was furious, absolutely furious, and he called her to him and he said, "Why would you disobey me?" She said, "Because I don't think a man that young and so handsome and virile should die." And he said, "That is not your decision to make." He said, "You've been a good Valkyrie to me. You've escorted many souls to Valhalla. So I need to punish you, but let me think." He said, "I will give you one blessing. I will make you immortal. You will live, you will marry, and you will die. But the blessing is that you will marry a hero. And I will make it so. I will put you in a castle up on top of a mountain, and I will surround the mountain with flames, so only a hero will be able to get through to you. And you will sleep until he arrives." That sounds familiar, doesn't it? We know another story about a princess that sleeps. But anyway, she got into the castle and she went to sleep, the flames surrounding the castle, and for many, many years she slept. Well, one day, a hero by the name of Sigurd rode his horse right through those flames into the castle. And there she was, lying there beautifully on a bed made of stone. He touched her shoulder, and she started to move, and she smelled singed horsehair. Oh. And she opened her eyes, and there in front of her stood a handsome young man. Her heart once again fluttered, and she sat up. He reached for her hand, and she reached for his. She stood up, and they immediately had a connection. They spoke for a while, and they held hands, and they even kissed, which was very uncommon back then. And he told her that he would return for her because he had a responsibility at the court of Burgundy, a commitment that he had made to slay a dragon. And once he did that, he would return for her. But to show her that he was returning, he took his ring off of his finger and put it on hers. And this would be his commitment to her because it was his ring, showing that he was betrothed to her. She wasn't very happy about him leaving, but she decided to go back to sleep and wait for him that way. So she went back to sleep, and in the meantime, he took off to the court of Burgundy. When he arrived, the Queen Brynhilde, we'll call her Grim for this story, because she was grim and she was quite evil. She had concocted this story about having this dragon that needed to be slain. Well, there was no dragon. At dinner that night, they were having quite a feast, and she said, "Sigrid, we are so happy that you are here. In fact, I am so blessed that you have come to our kingdom to slay the dragon. So tonight, I would like you to drink from this goblet. This goblet is saved only for heroes and kings. And I will pour the wine into this goblet myself, just for you." So as she poured the wine into the goblet, she muttered something that no one could understand. Well, he drank, and as he drank, suddenly, all of his memories disappeared. He no longer remembered Brynhilde. He no longer remembered why he even came to the court of Burgundy. He no longer remembered anything about his past. All he knew was that he was here, and whatever Queen Grim wanted, he would do. So the next morning, she of course wanted him to marry her daughter, Brynhilde. Well, she also had 2 sons. Well, so he married Brynhilde, and they had a huge wedding feast, and they lived somewhat happily. Well, meanwhile, Brynhilde's waiting up on top of the mountain with the ring of flames around her. Well, Queen Grim knew about this because she was a sorcerer, and she could see into the future. She could see what was happening. And she saw that Valkyrie, who is now mortal, lying asleep on that bed of stones. And so she told her son, Gunnar, I want you to marry a woman who is worthy of heroes. She's worthy of a hero, and she's worthy of having children that will be heroes. She is up on a mountaintop 3 days' ride away in a castle that is surrounded by flames, a ring of flames. You must get through the flames to get to her, and then you can claim her as your wife. So Gunnar saddled up his finest horse, and he rode 3 days to get to Brynhilde. He got to the ring of flames, and his horse got scared. It laid right down in the dirt and wouldn't go through the flames. As hard as he tried to get the horse up and to move on, the horse wouldn't. So he turned around and rode 3 days back home. At dinner that night, he was talking to his mother and also to Sigrun and his sister and said, I couldn't get through the wall of flames. Well, Sigrun said, my horse is a wonderful horse. He will do exactly what you want. Since you're my brother-in-law, almost my real brother, I'd like you to take my horse and take him through the ring of flames. So Gunnar once again got on a horse, rode the 3 days up to the castle, stopped at the ring of flames, and guess what? He didn't have the confidence or the fortitude to get that horse to go through the flames. Try as he might, the horse would not cross the ring of flames. So once again, he turned around and rode the 3 days back home. He told his mother, I don't know what to do. I can't get even Sigurd's horse to cross the ring of flames. Sigurd said, look, you're my brother. I love you like a brother, even though you're my brother-in-law. You're my wife's brother. I love you. I will help you. I will wear your chainmail, your helmet, and carry your shield, and I will go get your bride. So he rode the 3 days to the castle, rode right through that ring of flames, and once again he was standing in front of Brynhilde. He touched her arm, and she woke up absolutely thrilled that her hero had returned. The only thing was that she didn't see love in his eyes. In fact, he didn't even recognize her. He didn't know who she was. She didn't know what to do. Well, he looked down at her and saw a ring on her finger, and he didn't even recognize that it was his ring. But he took that ring off of her finger, and he put Gunnar's ring, and he said, this is my brother-in-law's ring. I am here to claim you as his bride. He put his ring in his pocket and put Gunnar's ring on her finger, carried her out, put her on his horse, and drove the 3 days back to the castle, to the court of Burgundy. And when they got there, of course, a huge feast and a wedding party. Well, things went okay, of course. Brynhilde was quite unhappy that she was living in the same house as her long-time forever love, the person she knew she was to be with forever, and he didn't even know it. But she lived day by day and tried to accept the reality of what was happening. Well, one day, Brynhilde, Sigurd's wife, started to boast about her husband and how brave her husband, the hero, was, and how he could slay dragons, and how he is the one who went and got her from the castle surrounded by the ring of flames, that her husband, Brynhilde's brother, couldn't even do it. So she was boasting and boasting, and then she said, and look at the ring that Sigurd gave me. Well, that infuriated Brynhilde, because that was the ring that he had given her. So in that moment, she decided to break the whole thing open. So she told him the whole story. She told her the whole story, what was true. And she was very, very upset. Brynhilde went right to her mother, the sorcerer, and said, Mother, mother, what am I to do? Could this possibly be true? Well, the queen, Grim, knew that she had to do something to save her own face and to save the honor of her children. So she went to her younger son, and she told her younger son that he was going to be responsible for killing Sigrid. This was the only way the daughter would be able to save her honor, and that Queen Grim could save face. So that night, in the middle of the night, the younger son went into the sleeping quarters of Sigrid and stuck a knife right into Sigrid's heart.
No!
3 days later, when it came time for the funeral, they put his body on the funeral pyre, and Brynhilde went into the kitchen, grabbed a big butchering knife, and stuck it in her belt. She went out to the funeral pyre. She grabbed the knife with her back to the fire and jammed it into her throat. And as the life was draining out of her, she fell backwards, right onto the fire, for this is the only way she would spend eternity with her love. And this is the legend of Brynhilde. And if you want to know more, check out Wagner's opera, The Ring.